I guess building on Ken's opening comments, that the focus this year under Ken and Martin's leadership is very much about doing fewer things, but aiming to do them really well. And the 4 things that we've continued to focus on as part of the Asset Integrity Steering Group are shown up on this slide. Verification, led by Ian Wright of DNV. That's probably the most mature work stream that we have. Steve will talk in a bit more detail later, but we're just about ready to launch a product under the verification work stream. Technical authorities, led by Bruce Lawson, who spoke to us this morning from Total, and Eric Henderson, Director of HSE at Petrofac. That work stream is all around trying to define what the role of a technical authority should be doing across the industry. Really, we all have technical authorities. Probably the role of technical authority is somewhat different in each of our companies. This is not trying to say the technical authority has to do exactly the same thing in each company, but it is looking to define the good practices that a technical authority would conduct. The next work group is Hydrocarbon Release Prevention or Elimination, led by Ian Buchan from Talisman and Jim McRae from Nexon. And that's really the area that we focused on at our work session on the 15th of March. These guys are making really good progress, and again, we'll take you through the detail of what they're working on during the course of this presentation. And then finally, looking at the somewhat disproportionate contribution that floating installations make to overall industry performance on hydrocarbon release, we've decided to create a group focusing specifically on understanding why FPSOs, FPFs contribute apparently more hydrocarbon releases than the rest of the industry. Last year at this event, we asked a couple of questions around hydrocarbon releases. The first question was, is your company committed to supporting the industry to deliver the 50% reduction in HCRs by Q2 next year? And here are the answers that we collectively gave as a community of managing directors. Actually, a pretty positive answer, I think. 78% said yes, fully committed. Interested in the 21% saying, well, it doesn't really apply to me, I don't need to be committed, or I don't understand enough about it. We'll re-ask a similar question later on this morning. The second question that we asked was, does your company have a plan in place to assist the industry in achieving the 50% reduction target? And here are the answers that we got. So a good third said yes. Another third said we're working on it, not quite there yet. And again, about a third said either no or it doesn't apply to me. So we'll come back and ask that question again later this morning. Ken shared this graph briefly and said I would talk in a bit more detail to it. So let me just point out that the benchmark starting point that we have in 2010 is 187 hydrocarbon releases. We have made, in the first year, an 11% improvement. And actually, the orange graph, the orange line there shows the projected endpoint that will be at the end of March 2012. So in 4 days' time, this is where we think we'll be. The count at 15th of March this year was 116. That number is actually, the projection is 127. And clearly, there have been a number of hydrocarbon releases over the last couple of weeks. But if we're able to, in 2012, March 31st, deliver more or less in line with the projection there, we'll have delivered a 30+% improvement in the 2-year period that we've covered there. So my summary is, I think, quite good performance. It's certainly possible for us to achieve the 94 hydrocarbon release target from 1st of April this year through until the 31st of March next year, which is the end point. It's possible, but it really does require us all as leaders to be working together and playing our part in continuing to build momentum and drive hydrocarbons releases out of our business. And as part of the responses that Steve Walker and the HSE received when Steve wrote to each of us and said, can you share your hydrocarbon release improvement plans with us, was a couple of examples of some really good practice in terms of improvement plans. I guess one of the better examples that Steve and the HSE have highlighted is the example from British Gas, which was shared a couple of weeks ago by Alan Blacklaw. And here are some of the elements of what a really good hydrocarbon release improvement plan looks like. It has clear performance criteria. There's KPI ownership. So for each of the KPIs, there's clear accountability for owning that particular performance indicator. There's regular reporting, and BG report on a quarterly basis. And they're looking at trends. They're not just looking at green lights and focusing on current performance. They're very much looking at trend over a period of time. They use a simple, visible dashboard, which is visible to not just the guys in the office, but importantly the guys at site. And here there's very clear ownership. In BG's case, they have a single point of accountability, Alan Blacklaw, for owning this improvement plan. The one thing that strikes me is that we need to talk about this more often. And one of the ways that we're trying to encourage the industry, each of us to talk about this a bit more frequently, is to use the hydrocarbon release team to generate these events like that we had on the 15th of March, where we get a real cross-section of the industry together and have a focused agenda and have a good conversation and get people's interest increased. And this is a bit of detail behind what the HCR team are working on. Their focus is very much about sharing, creating these learning events. We have another one lined up in May, which Les is feverishly working behind the scenes to get us ready for. They're also looking at sharing good practice. So I talked already about the BG example of a great hydrocarbon release improvement plan. And what the team are looking to do is take the best from the best examples and create a list of what good looks like. What should the ideal improvement plan contain? So that's a clear deliverable that the guys are working on with a target date of the end of next month. They're also looking at helping our people at sites, whether it's site leaders or safety reps, to build more engagement and involvement in the topic of eliminating hydrocarbon releases. There's a couple of things, tangible things that they're working on currently. The first is a DVD, which will be the first in a series of simple DVDs that people can use at safety meetings or at safety rep events to just get people thinking more and be more engaged around the topic of eliminating hydrocarbon releases. They also have a very simple poster campaign, which is ready, will be ready in the next month or so to launch, just to help our site leaders across the industry raise the topic and keep people engaged. In terms of, bless you, in terms of communication and support, the deliverable will be a one-stop website as part of the Step Change in Safety website, where people can go if they want to learn about good ideas to eliminate hydrocarbon releases. And there'll be things like good examples of improvement plans, information on recent events, and key themes on causes of hydrocarbon releases. This is not new data, so I'm going to skip through this fairly quickly, but this is the distribution of hydrocarbon releases across the various installations that our industry manages. The vast majority of our hydrocarbon releases come from fixed and manned installations, the platforms that we operate. 24% come from floating production units. NUIs, normally unmanned installations, contribute 4%, and 2% come from drilling rigs. So good performance from the drilling people in the room. Tom McLaren of the HSE made an opening statement at our workshop on the 15th of March. And what he said is that we're having new releases for old reasons. There aren't new causes of us having hydrocarbon releases. It's the same old stuff that continues to catch us out. So this is the current data set, which runs through to March last year. We're just at the end, coming to the end of the current reporting year, and in fairly short order, we'll be ready to share the new analysis with you all in the next month or so. This is the underlying causes from the current data set, and loud and clear: inadequate maintenance, inadequate engineering, and human factors are the main underlying causes. And from where do the hydrocarbon releases come? Looking at release sites, valves are 23%, pipe body 13%, and then vessel and instrument connections in the 10% or so region. The floating production unit work group, this is a busy slide, I apologise for that. In essence, they're looking at trying to understand the reasons why there is this disproportionate contribution of hydrocarbon releases from FPSOs. They're looking to understand common failure modes, and they're looking to understand whether the hydrocarbon release causes are specific to floating production units, or whether there's a broader industry set of learnings that can come from this. And the key deliverable that this team is going to produce is a set of guidelines which look to help us improve as an industry the operation of existing FPSOs, or contribute to the design and construction of new builds. So again, very simple and clear deliverables for that group. So this is the data that has caused us to set up this FPSO working group. And I should say that as the team led by John Fleming have looked into the data over the last 12 months, not this data set, there is actually a question around whether the FPSOs are truly contributing as much as the old data set suggests. But this is an interesting plot which shows on the inner circle the split of installations. And you see 87% of the installations are fixed, and only 13% of the UKCS installations are floating. And then when you look at the outer ring, the hydrocarbon releases come disproportionately highly from the red segment there for FPSOs. So they're kind of not as you would expect. We're looking into the reasons why, and in the next month or so we will be able to report our findings on that.